Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and we have some pretty big news today. BSG announced a patch tonight as of recording this video. It'll be April 13th, 10 a.m. MSK, so that's Moscow time. So that rolls around to 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 5 p.m. in Sydney for all you time travelers out there. They're saying the installation might take 2 hours, so that means the game will be down. You will not be able to play. It could take longer, it could take less. They're usually pretty good about the predictions, but sometimes things happen. Now, to get the obvious out of the way, it is not Lighthouse. Nothing with expanding Lighthouse or the new scav bosses is part of this patch. If you'd watched my other previous videos, it pretty much falls along with what I thought it was going to be, with some additional stuff, which is great. So let's get into the patch notes, because they actually gave us some for it, and it's a pretty good list. So I'm not going to go through every line of this. We'll kind of breeze through it, hit some of the big topics. I'll talk about some things that I think. I'll put the links down in the description below so you can go look at them yourself. All the way down at the bottom, it's got the multiple languages, so you can see the different translations. I imagine they're just kind of as good as the ones that they do Russian to English sometimes, but not just giving them a hard time. We'll get into it here. Right into the notes. So optimizations, tons of optimizations here. Everything to do with networking, CPU utilization, GPU utilization, shaders, all sorts of stuff in here. So hopefully the game is going to run a lot better tomorrow. And that's before we even talk about DLSS. Now, I'm not even going to claim to understand 100% of what DLSS does or how it works. Supposedly it's going to be a really good thing. I'm excited to test it out tomorrow and see. I've been tinkering with my settings the last couple of days a bunch anyways already. So this is just more stuff to play around with. The only thing I'll really say is you have to have an NVIDIA GPU, and it's got to be an RTX GPU. And then you can use DLSS. If you don't meet those criteria, you can't use it. Just kind of is how it is. Now, some of the bigger changes that they're adding in here. First up is going to be the auxiliary tools used in some crafting recipes will return back to stash after production completion. So we saw red screwdrivers, some of the other items in here. So I'm imagining basically anything that's a tool that wouldn't make sense to be destructive means that it's not going to be used up in craft anymore. But that being said, it sounds like they are going to make these things rare. Now, it doesn't say it in the patch notes, but that's what Nikita said in the podcast. So if you have a chance to get on before the servers go dark, I would buy up tools cheap, or make sure you hang on to the ones that you find in raid, because they're going to get expensive. Also on top of this, one that I did not expect to have this early, but we're going to get added weapon and armor repair kits. These kits can only be found in raid, which tells me that you could probably get them out of your scav case too. We'll have to wait and see. In the next couple of days, if you guys are watching this, see them, let us know down in the comments that you guys are seeing those, if you get them out of scav case or anything like that. But find them in raid, so caches will be interesting to see where you find these at. And the effectiveness of the repair kits is going to be affected by weapon maintenance and intelligence skills. And weapon maintenance has been turned off, so hopefully that means they're turning it back on, and we can actually have that level up some here for the rest of the wipe. Cool little bit of addition also is they're going to be adding the Chiappa Rhino pistol. They're going to add the 200 DS in 9x19, which is a 200 DS is just basically means it's a 2-inch barrel. If I had to guess, I'm going to say this is the 1x1 slot Nikita talked about, but we'll see once the patch hits, obviously. And the other one they're going to add is the Chiappa Rhino 50 DS, chambered in 357, which is a 5-inch barrel for it. So how this is going to affect stats, we'll just have to wait and see. But because of this, they're obviously adding a new ammo type. So now we have 357 in the game. It looks like we got soft point, jacketed hollow point, and full metal jacket coming. So no AP rounds. So it'll be interesting to see what the stats are on these once we see them. But come tomorrow, I expect to be seeing people with revolvers all over the map just to play around with them. Like straight up, there's going to be guys running around in factory with cowboy hats, yelling yeehaw and pretending to be a sheriff with double barrels and pistols. I can see it already. They mentioned that in the near future, they're going to add 2 more versions of the Chiappa Rhino, which will be chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, and another one in 9x21 ITA. So this is a completely new round in the game. Just like 357, there's going to be 2 9x21, so keep that in mind. You get the 9x21 Graz, G-word, whatever, Russian ammo. There's a Russian 9x21. It's for the shrimp. And then now you'll have this 9x21 ITA, which is an Italian round. So with this, they added the revolver mastering. It'll be interesting to see what that does as far as reload animations, because I think that could be pretty cool. They didn't mention anything in the notes about adding the speed loaders, though Nikita said they were going to be in there. So look for those if the patch hits tomorrow and see if they're in there or not, because if there are, you're definitely going to want one for the revolvers. Now into some of the other stuff. It looks like they're improving rogue AI to enhance their teamwork interactions, which is cool. I think that rogues should be insanely hard to fight, and the fact that people can farm them. I mean, there's guides out there that you can farm rogues in like 2 minutes and 30 seconds or whatever it is. If you can do that, that's dumb to me. You shouldn't be able to do that on the rogues. Feel free to disagree, but I'm happy to see them upping the AI and making them more difficult to fight through teamwork. And this kind of plays into what I talked about with the scav bosses, where I think we're going to see them use more coordinated tactics. Them all running the big, really conspicuous radios is what kind of made me think that. There's a rework of the spawn mechanics for scavs to kind of fix how they spawn around players and can spawn in objects. And also sometimes you could spawn on sniper or rogue positions as a player scav. That's all going to be fixed. There's a note in here about being able to click the next button on the faction selection screen before models are fully loaded. I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't think it really matters. There's a line here about updating the sounds of pouch interaction for several weapons and magazine types. So I'm wondering, I don't know what this means, but what I could see is different kinds of armor carriers, whether you're talking about an armor plate carrier or your rigs or vests. They have Velcro, or some of them have elastic bands. Some of them don't have anything. They have hard plastic on the inside, depends on the plate carrier that pinches the mag to hold it in place. So I'm thinking we're going to get some different sounds for different pouches for when you interact with mags or grenades or maybe even meds and things like that. We also got a nerf to the endurance skill. So before, your breath recovery speed was 100% plus, so they cut that in half. You're only going to recover 50%. And then the stamina increase in stamina was 25%. They're lowering that to 20%. They're adding an ability in here to sort tasks by location in the quest menu, which is handy. So if you're looking for reserve quests, you can sort and see that. So that'll be a nice little quality of life addition there. And there were reworking the scav behavior mechanics on factory while players are fighting Tagilla. I'm not sure what this is going to mean, but maybe it means the scavs come help Tagilla, or maybe they run away. Who knows? Now, the next couple are really big. They added inertia for bots when accelerating or decelerating, as well as adding speed settings for bots during stationary, turning, and running. So AI are going to finally have inertia, which is great. This is going to be so good. I'm happy to see this. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next couple of days. There's also a deal in here about how they're no longer going to shoot while switching stances. For example, you'll see them go prone on you or go crouch on you and shoot at you instantly, or while they're doing that transition. Now, I think this is the third time we've seen this in patch notes, so I ain't going to hold my breath to see that it's fixed this time. Huge quality of life one here that we talked about from the podcast. Nikita mentioned is they're adding the ability to replace an operational task in the trader quest menu. Now, keep in mind, the replace task will be considered failed. The cost of each subsequent reroll, if you will get more expensive. So it looks like you can keep re-rolling the same task. Now, it does not look like the timer is going to change. So if you have 10 hours and you re-roll, you're still going to have 10 hours to complete the task that you re-rolled. Now, the fact that the replace task is considered failed, I don't know that I like that, especially if it is true that failing tasks makes them easier and makes your rewards less. That's going to make people really not inclined to do that task or to not use the re-roll. Next one, kind of small deal. They disabled the environmental sounds, wind and rain, while you're loading into raid, which, whatever. I mean, you could tell where you were spawning reserve before you spawned, things like that. Guess it's cool. I didn't really mind. It didn't bother me none. They're also adding a new type of operational task. So it's going to be an elimination task, but you're going to have to use a specific type of weapon class. So sniper, assault rifle, pistol, shotgun, something along those lines. So that's cool. It'll just add more variety to our dailies and weeklies. So the next one, I'm not 100% sure about, but it says here added overheating ability for several weapon attachments. What I read this as meaning is that we're going to see weapon attachments now that have a plus or not minus heating rating on them, kind of like you see on suppressors and barrels and some of the shrouds and stuff like that. I think we're going to see more items that can affect heating, which is good because it'll give you more variety and more desire to build guns. If you have guns that tend to overheat, there might be parts that help that out more. Now, the next one that's adding is really interesting. This is going to be game changing for everybody who's played the game for a long time, because we were all used to dying to player scavs. And you used to not be able to tell until they added the report button, and then you could tell if it was a player scav or an AI scav. Well, now on the death scene, it's going to show the player's nickname if you were killed by a player scav. So I don't know if that means it's going to completely replace it, or you're going to see two names there. You're going to see the player scav name and the player name. And by player scav name, I mean the Russian scav name. So are you going to see both of those, or is it just going to have a player name now? So you're not going to really know if you died to a player scav or a PMC? Hard to say. We'll see how this plays out. And then lastly, for the additions, they added a connection type tab to the game settings section. You can select HTTP in case of issues with access to the functional sections of the lobby. They say here that this setting does not affect the game's performance during raids. So I think this is going to be another option if you're having some connection issues and things like that to help you move around in the lobby and stuff. Now, list of fixes. There's a huge list here. I'm not going to go over everything because there's a bunch of stuff in here that's just kind of whatever. There's some changes to how bots are aggressive to player scavs being shot now. There's a change in here about how Gluhar's guards are no longer going to stop shooting at a player when switching weapons after Gluhar's dead. Sounded like kind of a small, kind of rare scenario, but nonetheless, they fixed that if you'd ever noticed it. It looks like they've turned off the resampling deal for thermals, which I'm glad they did. I thought this was so cheesy, people doing this. If you're using T7s, basically you turn on super sampling and it was like having colored infrared. It's silly. It's not how it's supposed to work. So it looks like that has been corrected, but only we'll have to wait and see till we get into the game. There's a fix here to Postman Pat. People have been talking about this. I'll wipe. Some people it's bugged, some people it's not. So if you've been stuck on Postman Pat, now you can get past it. And then there's a whole list of other changes and fixes they have in here. You can look at it more specifically, graphics, little bugs, things like that. I'm not going to sit here and ramble on about them. We'll get the video wrapped up. Hope it's helpful. Hope you're excited for the patch. I am. I can't wait for tomorrow. When it goes live, come check me out. I'll be streaming tomorrow. We'll be playing around with the revolver a whole bunch, I'm sure. So again, thank you for watching. I wish you the best of luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.